Introducing Tony Gebhard.
That's been crazy. Already, first week of conventions feels like it's blown by so quick.
We'll talk with Tony about his blindness.
If I try and live my life so unaccepted with what's going on right now, I'm going to be miserable and I'm going to make everybody else around me miserable.
And we'll listen to his music. We'll talk with Tony about his passion for music.
If you are obsessed and in love with something, you will find a way to make it work and to make it something that you can listen to. I was just every day playing guitar. And I got a drum set when I was 10.
And we'll listen to his music. We'll talk with Tony about how he coped with his transition to blindness.
There are good people out there and you will find them. And if you do have a good TVI, embrace them because that's what they're there for. They're there to give you that help. They want you to feel like you can have that independence to do what you need to do to be successful.
And we'll listen to his music.
I'm alive again, I feel it deep within.
Coping with the frustration of blindness.
Metal music happened to be that one thing that waltzed into my life to give me that frustration and anger outlet for the loss of my sight.
We'll talk more about his passion for music.
Or the nice Kurt Hammock wah.
And we'll hear more of his music. We'll hear Tony's advice for young blind musicians.
Don't give up on music.
And yes, we'll hear more of his music.
You drive away into the night in search of a better place, a peace of mind. It's gone downhill the last week or two. No one answers you. They treat you like a fool. Walk away.
Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson.
And I'm Pete Lane. Our guest this morning is Tony Gebhard. Tony, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Yeah, it's been crazy. Already, first week of conventions feels like it's blown by so quick, but shoot, man, still 3 days left.
I'm telling you. We ran into Tony here in Orlando, Florida at the NFB National Convention 2018. I hooked up with Tony because he's a friend of my son, Patrick, who is a guitarist, as is Tony. Patrick told me about Tony as an accomplished musician, so I picked up YouTube and started listening, and about 4 hours later, I put it down. Tony is a musician, plays multiple instruments, sings, composes, produces, and does about everything possible to produce multiple albums with his music. Tony, why don't you kick us off? This is a blindness-related podcast. Sure. Tell us about your blindness, when you lost your vision, and how, and a little bit about how you dealt with it at the time.
Sure, man. Yeah. So I'm 21 now, and I have what's called, it's a mouthful, peripheral vitreoretinopathy. It's called Stickler's disease, and it's a retina detachment. When I was born, essentially what happened is my retinas were weak and smaller than the average size. And granted, I still had legal blindness. I was still legally blind, so I was able to see probably about 20/100 or so. It's been a while, and as a child, some memories are definitely faded as far as, what all happened, but I was very heavy into sports. I always played hockey. I played soccer, and I was heavy into video games, constantly day and night, and that wasn't good for my vision either, considering how close I was to the freaking, computers, those screens, and, it was bad with my cornea, so I was having cornea issues all the while, so I was destined to lose my vision at some point, but I probably had, it's still slightly an exaggeration, but also kind of the truth, well over 50 different surgeries throughout my childhood with the retinal detachment, with keeping it attached to the back of my eye, trying to empty out fluids that were building up, blood clots, and all, just a montage of disgusting things that kept on going on. I had lost the ability to see out of my right eye around age 2 or 3 from a head impact. I believe I was playing outside and I ran into something. It's very faded memory. So I lost my vision completely in that eye and I was only able to see out of my left. I didn't need to use a cane, nor did I need to read Braille at the time. I was reading large print once I got into school. My VI at the time, bless her heart, she was amazing. She kept me going throughout middle school and high school. She was amazing. I love her very much. Shout out to Cami Fortier. She started getting me into Braille right when I was in first grade.
And this is in Michigan.
Michigan, yes. Okay. This is all in Michigan. Jenison, Michigan. So I grew up in Jenison, Michigan, one of the best places in the whole universe. It's home. Go Blue, Wolverines. I also graduated there in 2015.
So you're using a TVI. Did you bridge over into the voc rehab of Michigan?
Bureau Services for Blind Persons, which is essentially their state agency. Anyway, summer of 05 comes around, and I was playing with my best friend and my cousin and his family across the street from where my family was living at the time. And we were hanging out in the pool. It was hot outside. It could have been a more perfect August day. And they had a trampoline that was, I still jump on these today, just for a note. But what happened here was they didn't have a cover around the side, nor did they have a catch net. So, I mean, if you fall off, you're going to fall off. You ain't going to get caught. Anyway, we were playing this game called Clock, where somebody gets in the middle and spreads out their legs and their arms and tries to trip everyone. Some people be like, this is stupid. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's what makes that stuff fun, So my friend's brother was on the trampoline, right? And he was doing that, and bam, I was one that got caught. But unfortunately, what happened was I had fallen face first into one of these things, and it just so happened my left eye had come right into contact with one of those trampoline springs, and bam, it scrapes through my cornea and basically demolishes whatever's left of my vision. I saw it was just nothing but light flashes, strong, piercing flashes, and all at once everything went black.
Wow.
And basically I knew, obviously at 9 years old, I was devastated. All I could do was cry and consider my life to be completely over. Obviously I was such an adolescent at the time, you don't know much, you don't know life. So at that point, I was just so upset. I was rushed home. I had to go to the hospital. We had to, do all this, bullshit like that. And I had to get a cornea transplant about a week later. They were able to heal everything. They were able to take care of it, but then we had to get a cornea transplant, which failed anyway within 3 years. The cornea started to deteriorate.
Was that a result of your video games and viewing?
Everything all together kind of just compressed into one big, cesspool of this is your fate. I think it was April of 2009. I had gotten a prosthetic eye put in because at that point they said, look, this eye is doomed. You have to get rid of it. And of course, I'm a little older. I'm 12 years old, 13. And I started to really recognize what was going on. And it's like, this is my life. This is it. This is what's going to happen. These are the cards that are dealt in my life that I have to accept and be completely content with. Otherwise, what am I going to do? I don't have the kind of magical money to try and fix this. And if I try and live my life so, unaccepted with what's going on right now, I'm going to be miserable and I'm going to make everybody else around me miserable. And that's where I'm at today. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. My right eye is still here, but it's non-functioning, and my left eye is prosthetic.
However, you picked up the guitar a little bit and some other music equipment.
I did. Yeah, so we'll kind of go back here to 2004, 2005. This was kind of like pre-accident, but also in the midst of it. I had been introduced to the piano and the keyboard around age 7. I think it was my grandma's keyboard or something like that she had. It was like as a Yamaha, and it was given to me, and it was one of those kid ones, 61 key, but I fell in love with that damn thing, man. I was in the basement every damn day playing until like 2 a.m, just learning the little demos that they had on, the left and right hand lessons. And I was infatuated. I was mesmerized. And, I was taking my dad's CD book and learning a bunch of music that he had, We can fast forward here too. I got into guitar when I was about 9 years old. That was the next instrument that I picked up. So I started, building this kind of like repertoire and little musical chamber in my basement in the garage. I just fell in love with metal music. I was like infatuated with it. I love it. Still to this day, I don't want to add an ED to any of this because it's very present. It's still here. I love it. And, the guitar was, I think, the big one. The guitar was the one that really just got me and be like, okay, this is my instrument. This is the primary. This feels like my motif in life to just indulge in, And shoot, I remember plugging I didn't have a good amp. The amp that I had that my dad gave me blew out within a month. So I took a karaoke machine and I maxed it out so I could get distortion. So I would plug my guitar into it. This isn't meant for a guitar, but I didn't care. You find a way. If you are obsessed and in love with something, you will find a way to make it work and to make it something that you can listen to. I was just every day playing guitar. And I got a drum set when I was 10 and, just a small one. It was just a simplistic one, but I still played it. And I learned how to play play the drums with my feet and guitar with my hands. And I had a microphone attached to a boom mic arm that I would put over to me so I could sing, play guitar, and drums all at the same time.
Yeah,
and
so you're one-man band.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit of a hidden talent of mine since I was 10 years old, but I haven't shown anybody. Sing, play guitar, and play drums at the same time. Why don't we?
It's like a carny.
Yeah, dude, I just it just all came to me. It all came to me all at once. I felt, I'm also a spiritual guy too, very much a God person. I feel like God did something really significant and is still doing it to me for that very reason. He just gave me this ability, this just huge passion that I can explore for myself and also exploit for others, sell it, but also still at the same time, use it as a therapeutic tool.
Let me ask a question, Tony.
Yeah.
You said when you were learning the keyboard, you were doing your tutorials and you listened to your dad's CDs. What kind of CDs did he have?
He's very much a metalhead, kind of like myself. He had Killswitch Engage, Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera, Deep Purple, Van Halen, Motley Crue. It's like the whole 9 yards. So it was a lot, all of that. And my mom hated it. She was like, "Wait, listen to that crap." Stuff like that. I'm like, "It's not crap, Mom. It's not crap. It's the future."
Richie Blackmore, Dimebag.
Yeah, buddy. It was something else, man. And you know what? I think it was ironic because metal music happened to be that one thing that waltzed into my life to give me that frustration and anger outlet for the loss of my sight. I think that's why I fell in love with metal so much. And why I still love it today is it gives me the ability to take out and exploit all of the frustrations and annoyances that I have with, societal prejudice or, this self-doubt or anger, frustration, anything that kind of exploits negativity. It just gave me that ability to send it in whenever I listen to a good metal album. It even helps me with my happy emotions too. It's a soundtrack.
What tune would you insert here as far as a song that would illustrate your happy stuff?
Probably not Jackie and Diane.
No.
Like a drop of rain, I want to fall. Anxiety renders me. Amended plans will prevail, and I will never fail. Yeah, I'm alive again. I feel it deep within. It's so pure that I can't.
What was your first guitar that really got you into the metal?
What was my first guitar that got me into it? I started off with a couple Stratocasters, but I think the one that really pushed the whole metal obsession was a Dean Flying V. It was very much a Dimebag Darrell guitar, kind of, that 1980s, typical, glam rock kind of guy. And granted, I think they're lame nowadays, but back then I thought they were the coolest thing in the universe. So I was just like, bam, this is it. This is the guitar that makes me look like a badass. This is the guitar that is going to make me feel, super pumped, super, jubilant and, out there. You know what I'm saying?
How long did that one last?
Probably 3-4 years.
And then what'd you go into?
Schecter. It was a Schecter Hellraiser, and that's been actually my guitar the last 5 years.
What'd you amp it with?
Right now, I'm using a 6505 Mini tube head with a Marshall 4x12 cabinet. For a while, I had a Line 6 combo for one of the Spider series, and then I made an upgrade. So I actually have a couple of amps. I have the Joyo Zombie, which is a hybrid tube head, 20-watt tube head that's a company from the UK. They're actually really, really cool. And it's not to get off into a tangent, but what's really nice is lately what I've seen in the trend is a lot of these amp companies are actually releasing these mini tubes, these hybrids for under $200. And that's crazy because, notoriously these amps are, $1,000+ just for the heads. So, but
So
no.
you get a mini one and hook up a cabinet to it, and there you go.
Right, exactly. You know, as long as it matches the ohms and the impedance, like with the particular technology they got it with, it works. It works. So, no, that's been my.
Unless you're Van Halen and want to play around with that stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly. You know, Eddie, I love Eddie Van Halen, man. I live my life like there's no tomorrow. That's great. Hell yeah, man. So voice is a little rusty, so I don't know how. Well, that's early. But he taps. That's just something else. Eruption. It never gets old.
No,
it never gets old.
So what's your favorite effect?
You know, that's a really funny question because I've never really been. I don't use too many effects on my guitar, but if I had to choose, probably wah and delays. A delay or a wah. I mean, I never really, because I've always been organic and dry with how I produce. The only thing that I really add effects to is my vocals, which most of the time will be filters, you know, phasers every now and again here, lots of delays, you know, reverb obviously, and it kind of add that spacious effects.
The old Morley wah.
Yeah. Or the nice Kurt Hammock wah, you know, something like that.
You mentioned a TVI earlier, someone that helped you out.
Yeah.
What kind of help did you receive?
You know, I'll give you a big example. I'll just go straight to the chase. I was out of school for 3 weeks straight after my accident. She came to the house 3 times a week to help me with Braille, to help me with tactile. She brought me homework. She stayed for like 4 hours a day, and she helped me. That's the kind of help I got.
Oh, wow.
That was the kind of TVI that I had in my life. And, you know, to anybody who's listening who may not have the greatest of TVI, I know there are good people out there and you will find them. And if you do have a good TVI, embrace them because that's what they're there for. They're there to give you that help, and that's what they want. They want you to feel like that you can have those provisions and have that independence to do what you need to do to be successful.
That probably changed your attitude to keep on going.
She really did. You know, she told me I was a dumbass when I was a dumbass, and she also helped me and made me feel good when I needed to feel good. She held me accountable.
Awesome.
You know, that's what I loved about her. She held me accountable.
So, Tony,
Yes.
you produce a bunch of stuff too.
I do, yeah.
So what kind of DAW do you use?
So I use Logic Pro X for Macintosh. I've touched Reaper once or twice here or there on both Mac and Windows, but it never really resonated with me. I really fell in love with Logic. I mean, originally I was a GarageBand user when I first got my Mac.
That's the stepchild.
Yeah, pretty much the step kid that just moved in, you know, with dad.
What's up, guys? This is Tony Gebhard, and I wanted to do a tutorial video for the visually impaired on how to use GarageBand version 6.0.5. I'm gonna pipe my voiceover through the audio so you guys can hear what I'm doing so you can properly do it. To get voiceover set up,
Confirm the audio setting.
you guys should be able to hear voiceover now. If you're new to GarageBand and you don't know where GarageBand is, it's in your apps.
You know, I just fell in love. I'm like, I love this flow. I love the setup, the way that tracks are viewed, the way that the mixer is set up. Like, I want something that's better than this and bigger but similar. And I found out about Logic, you know, obviously not having the money for it at the time. Eventually, I was able to figure all that nonsense out, and I was able to build my repertoire of plugins that I use. Particularly, I'm very in love with Isotope and Waves and their bundles that they use because, man, they got so many amazing deals and dynamic plugins that work so well with vocals, guitars, drums, bass. Same thing with mastering. That in particular, I started using GarageBand and all that back in 2012, and I didn't start using Logic until about 2015.
Well, how about your microphone?
Kind of gone through various microphones. I'm definitely a SM58 guy. You know, the standard industry standard. I love it, love it, love it. It was a guitar mic and vocal mic for the longest time, but I also bought a 57, so that's kind of my main instrumental mic. I had an MXL Guitar Cube Pro for a little while for my guitars. For bass guitars, I usually just record via DI direct in through a Livewire direct box, which is really nice. You know, kind of just plug it into your interface as you go, and it goes straight to the computer with a signal, and all you got to do is run a plugin through it, or do, you know, reamp it or something like that. And what was I gonna say?
You're going to say about the 16 mics you got on your drums?
Oh, no, actually, believe it or not, I've never really ever had the space to do drum recording. So that's the one thing I limit right now is having the luxury of recording drums. So I stick with samples and do MIDI. Yeah, I've always just done MIDI for drums, obviously with synthesizers and stuff like that. So
How does MIDI differ in terms of the technique and the hand-feet coordination from a live drum kit?
well, there's definitely a big significant change. You know, you already have pre-recorded samples and you're playing it on a keyboard. So you got to have rhythm in your hands. You know, if you're going to be doing something like that, you got to kind of know where each key is, and you have to think like a drummer too. You have to think like a drummer. How would a drummer play this, and how would they incorporate fills? How would they incorporate how to do this, and that? You know, when we're an upbeat, downbeat, you know, there's some fundamentals to it. And of course, have fun at the same time. I mean, and I could get here and talk about the fundamentals of rhythm and theory and stuff like that, but, you know, that's not where I'm going with this one. But
that's good. That's all that it started with keyboards.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, and that's the funny part. I never learned how to play a real drum set first. I learned how to play keyboard drums. So then once I actually got the ability to finally play on a drum kit, I was like, wait a minute, I've done this before. And subconsciously, I knew that, okay, I can reapply. But then now I have to learn how to do it with my arms. I got to learn how to do it with my legs and incorporate all that muscle memory, you know what I mean? To try and figure it all out, because now I got to reapply. I wasn't like God. I wasn't Neil Peart right off the bat.
I was just going to mention Neil Peart.
I wasn't some crazo right off the bat, but I had to spend a few years, you know, kind of just taking what I knew with the keyboards and then just boom, right onto the drum.
I wonder how much of the current modern day drumming techniques were actually influenced by the fact that drummers were doing it on the keyboard using fingers instead of their hands and legs. Mm-hmm. Is the technique and the sequence of your rolls and things like that, has it actually evolved as a result of that? Have you ever thought about that?
The way I look at it is a lot of people who want to be drummers only have a keyboard.
Right. And that's kind of funny nowadays. You know, you see a lot of people who are like, what, I don't need a drum set anymore. I can just do it on an E-kit, or I can just do it on a keyboard. In a sense, you know, I don't know how I feel about that, but at the same time, there's more options. You have more accessibility now, because I know plenty of blind people, especially a lot of blind kids who love drums, but they don't have a drum set because, you know, their parents think it's too damn loud and they don't want to buy them a kit, which, you know, that shame on that, because it's like, if you want to learn an instrument, you sacrifice. Parents out there, come on, give your kid a chance.
Living in an apartment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Oh, man. I got stories about that.
You mentioned Neil Peart. He's probably one of my favorite drummers, you know, for what he does. It's just amazing. Yeah. Rush was one of my bands back in the day.
Yeah, how about Fly by night, man, you know?
How about your top drummers?
Y'all probably don't know many of these people, but I'll give the band name that they're from. So Jordan Mancino, he is the drummer for Woven War and As I Lay Dying. One of my favorite drummers of all time. He started As I Lay Dying back in 1999, 2000. He was kind of one of the biggest drummers that helped influence the second wave of metalcore. I'm very also in love with J-Fo is what they call him. He's the drummer of Killswitch Engage. Also another individual who helped revolutionize that scene.
Who's the guy from Dream Theater? Who's
Mike Portnoy?
Portnoy.
Yeah, Portnoy. I mean, I've never been a really big progressive drummer, but every time I listen to Portnoy, I'm like, yep, that's him. His triggers, he doesn't use, you know, any of that drum alignment crap that they do. He's all raw, you know.
Well, when people go back to the Who, Keith Moon, I mean, he had, what, a 5-piece drum set?
Uh-huh. And he didn't need much.
And he did what he did.
You didn't need much, right? Like, sometimes, you know, little is best, or little is more, you know, or less is more. That's it. I was like, wait, what?
How about your guitar players?
Oh, man, that's an endless list.
Now, if this was Eddie Van Halen, he would have said, I don't have any.
Right? Adam Dickiewicz from Killswitch Engage, Nick Hepa and Phil Skrosco from As I Lay Dying. Let's see, I'll even throw James Hetfield in there from Metallica. I mean, he was a big one when I was a kid that I got into. Shoot, I listened to a lot of Testament when I was a kid too. I don't even remember the guy's name though. I don't know, making myself look dumb that I can't remember that name.
Just wait till you get older.
Yeah, really. Oh, Brian May from Queen. Love him. Oh, his tone is amazing.
He makes tones. Yeah, he has tones.
He's good. He is good.
Yeah.
Shoot, man, I love so many of them. Influences go on for days.
Tony, you mentioned earlier that you relocated to the West Coast. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. A little bit of a long story, but after I graduated high school in 2015, I'd just broken up with my band in high school. You know, there's no bad blood, nothing negative. We just had futuristic disagreements, and we kind of had to like, all right, you know, everybody's kind of going off and doing their own things. I had friends on the West Coast in Alaska that I did music with online. I did a lot of online collaborations starting from 2010 to now. You know, we just got to talking. You know, we're brothers at this point, basically. And I was like, you know, what would it take for me to move out there? there and kind of start over and, play music with you guys. I stayed out there for 2 months, played music. I lived in Girdwood, Alaska, which is the ski resort town of about 1,500 people. So once you move there and live there for a couple months, everybody knows you and you know everybody. Whatever happens in that town, everybody's gonna know. So it keeps you in check. And I really like that. And it's also full of freaking hippies. Like everybody's, doing what every day. Scene was really interesting because it was a montage of hippie rock, blues, folk, and then your occasional, banjo player out in the woods, and stuff like that. And that was a lot of fun, but this excursion didn't last long. I came back 2 months later from homesickness. So this was my first real move away from Michigan, and I learned a lot from it. And I started writing, because this is what gave me a lot of inspiration to start writing my first CD. So I started writing a ton. 4 or 5 months passed after song after song. I came back to Michigan. I was back in Michigan at the time. I was going to a lot of metal shows. I appeared on TV a couple times for a crowd surfing incident, which was really, really interesting. I decided to go back to Alaska later that fall of 2016 to give it another shot, to try. Like emotionally, I felt ready. I felt like I was able to tackle it a little bit better. So I got onto a plane. And I was actually in England for 3 weeks for my friend's wedding. So we went to England first. We were in London, Brixham, and Plymouth, which was really fun. And I love that place over there, man. They got good food. They got a good community. So September rolls around, and that's when I flew to Alaska. And I stayed there for a year. I was actually there for a year. So, everything kind of worked out good, in the time being. And I started playing drums a lot more, actually. This is when I picked drums back up. And now I've been playing drums for over 10 years, but I never played it day after day after day. It was kind of one of those where I touch it when I have the chance. So I started playing drums a lot. And me and my buddies, we formed a groove metal band. The rhythm of the metal music is solely based off the drums and the guitars and how they synchronize and how they make you move your body. So that's why they call it groove metal. So we did that, and it was really fun. We recorded an album. We got everything taken care of. The production has kind of been slacking a little bit as of late because everyone's been busy, but the album's basically going to be done and released out soon. I'm not doing it anymore only because I had to move. We were called Age of Zeta. It was really cool stuff. I also got my guide dog while I was out there. Flew to New York City for 3 weeks. Speaking of, Guiding Eyes is here. I actually just saw those guys yesterday, So anybody who's a Guiding Eyes person, woo, I'm with you all the way. I had her for a year. We hiked through Denali National Forest, which was really fun up in Alaska. We traveled through Chicago. We were in LA, New York, freaking everywhere. And it was such a blast. Came home actually this past October. She had to go early this April. It wasn't anything too bad, but it just wasn't the best time in my life to keep having a dog. But that was kind of it in a slightly big nutshell.
Rejuvenated, yes. Reborn, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I was able to come back home and kind of reinstate everything that was going on, kind of start from square one again, but it's been an adventure.
Why don't you strap on your guitar?
Sure, yeah. So I'm going to play at least a couple songs here. This song is called Never. It's track 12 off of my CD, Father Forgive Me. devil's got me by the hands. Unsure if I'll take flight. Whoever is guiding all of this, and all that's left are ashes of my garden. 12 years corrode, I'll never understand this shade of black. Why do I run to you for pleasure that's so tainted? Never again. I love you, I hate you. you take my hands, let them burn away, let them fall today. This photographic demon, it carves away into my stones, into my stone. I love you, I hate you, I don't wanna say your face. Desire, despiser, never, never. Superior emotion, I'll find desolation. I am not what you are, I am running free. You have no control. I love you, I hate you, I don't wanna say your face. Desire, despiser, never, never. I love you, I hate you, I don't wanna say your face. Desire, despiser, never, never. Superior emotions, I'll find desolation. I am not what you are, I am running free. Goodbye.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Give me a little background on that song. Where did that come from?
Actually comes from addiction. I have I've gone through drugs before, and it's kind of about the infatuation and also the psychotic hatred and the two-faced attitude that we all have. And I mean, we all, I bet you everybody in here has had at least one run-in with an addiction or two, and we all kind of have that understanding, like, look, we hate this, but at the same time, you know, it's meant to dilute us and make us feel so needy for it, like it's, you know, it's gonna bring retribution and, you know, all these things. And, you know, it was written 3 years ago. I actually wrote this before I moved to the West Coast for a short period of time. As men, you know, we also deal with pornography at times, or certain things that can take control. So that's kind of where that song comes from.
Thank you.
Very no worries.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. And be honest, even being cookie cutter with some of the things I write music for other people, but I also primarily focus on making it a therapy session for me. Don't have a name yet.
So what advice would you have for someone who's interested in music, young, you know, at 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, all those stages that you went through? What advice would you have for them?
I mean, to be honest with you, just keep loving it, because I'm going to keep it basic. Like, just love what you do. You know, people may complain, you know, along the way, like, hey, you're being too loud, or, you know, oh, turn that down, we're trying to sleep. You know, if that's the case, plug in some headphones and just listen to music. Don't give up on music. Don't let it ever dissipate. You know, everybody has their thing, you know, but like, if you're somebody who finds a huge infatuation with putting on a CD or putting on a record, if you're into vinyl, or, you know, just playing guitar and sitting there and learning something, just don't give up, okay? It doesn't matter who's better. It's not a freaking competition. It's not a freaking, you know, I'm better than you glam show. No, none of that shit matters, because what you do is what makes you you, and it allows you to exploit your emotions, your frustrations with your disability. It's an escape. It's an escape that won't judge you. It's like that perfect person in your life who you can talk to and who can talk to you right back. That's what music is.
And if someone wants to hear you expressing your emotions, where can they find your music?
So my music is everywhere you can stream or download music. iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play. So, you know, it's everywhere for your Android users and your Apple users. You know, just look up Tony Gebhard on the Play Store or Apple Music, wherever you get your music, like wherever you get it. Father Forgive Me is my first album that's out right now. Came out on July 4th of 2016. Just passed the 2-year mark for that thing. Oh my goodness. Whew. I have a couple singles out as well. Plenty of videos on YouTube that you guys can watch. I do tutorials on programs. I do live videos. I got a lot of my music up there too. Be on the lookout too. My second album, Changes, is on its way as well. I'm almost complete with my second CD. There's a couple singles out right now, so if you want to play one, yeah, I'd be glad to have that inserted.
No more hollow goodbyes. I know it's hard to process. Spread your wings and fly away. Flying away is what will make us breathe again. It's just a matter of time before these thoughts red lines will go.
We've been speaking with Tony Gebhard. Tony, thank you so much for sharing all of your stories with us.
It's a pleasure.
We cannot say enough about how you sounded right here in the hotel room. Ladies and gentlemen, that was live and in person Tony Gebhard with his Epiphone acoustic. You can find more from Tony in terms of music on YouTube. He's got a Tony Gebhard channel. He's all over the music industry. You can find his latest album, Father Forgive Me, and he's got one pretty much in the can that we will keep you alerted about as it comes forward. Tony, for Jeff and me and the Blind Abilities audience, thanks so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
It's our pleasure, man.
Where you are, I am running free. Just go ahead and amputate my
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap between
limited expectations and the reality of blind ability.
The realities of blind abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.